Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show today, guys. I love it. We are not only seeing some jaw-dropping news, but we have where Doge has just been at the IRS for literally 1 day, everybody. And within 1 day, Trump and Elon have announced that they are going to be terminating thousands of IRS workers, specifically in the IRS collections department. This is beautiful, guys. This is something that now a lot of people are excited about because, again, too, they're so focused right here on trying to get more of Americans' tax dollars and wasting it. And this just makes me happy because more Americans can keep their own tax dollars. I love it. Just also, too, with that, it's Christmas, guys, because Biden was trying to hire more people to target you, and Elon and Trump are firing them. On top of that, Elon also has exposed, guys, the line in government that taxpayers funded illegals through Doge. He exposes this through Doge. I'm going to show you where taxpayers funded by the Biden administration illegals to come into the country. And now all the sanctuary city states have passed laws allowing these illegals, non-citizens, to vote in their elections. The Democrats literally used taxpayer dollars to buy votes for their sides. It was all by design, funded by all the taxpayers. But we've got a lot of things coming with the budget reconciliation. Trump's new big, beautiful bill is going to allow the Republicans, the GOP, to roll back a lot of this spending. The House Ways and Means Committee are going to increase the deficit, the debt ceiling by $4.5 trillion. But don't get too nervous, guys. It's going to be okay. They've set a goal of $2 trillion in spending cuts every single year. So with that, they've put $1.5 trillion worth of reductions. They said this measure also called for $300 billion in additional spending for border security and national defense, and to hike the debt limit, of course, by $4 trillion. But at the same time, too, with Trump and Elon have just announced that there is a minimum $1 trillion in waste, fraud, and abuse that they can eliminate by 2026. This is a huge part of reducing and getting the United States into a surplus. But a big part of this, which we've heard now today, Trump signed an executive order today, is to cut off as much federal funding to states as possible that's not needed, especially to universities and that mandate COVID vaccines, and also to sanctuary city states that are housing illegals. We give about $1.1 trillion of the federal budget to these states. So with that, overall, they can reduce it by a bunch. So there's a lot of happening, guys, a lot of breaking news. And what I love, too, is that it only takes Doge 1 day to find so much fraud, waste, and abuse and give that money back to the taxpayer. I want to say thank you to everybody that is watching. Thank you to all of our viewers, guys. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Join the TrueLife News family. And thank you so much to all of our members of the channel. Hope that you get value and get value and are supported by this channel in getting the truth. And just want to say thank you to everybody that gives a super chat donation. We're truly grateful for your support. And again, too, if you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, guys, this is how you sponsor us, guys. We don't have sponsors on the channel, but this is how you support us in growing this channel and getting it out there. And again, too, you cannot make this up. Doge has been there 1 day, guys, and now the IRS is preparing to lay off thousands of workers, specifically in the collections agency. And that's not it. They are going after all the politicians, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, AOC. Watch this, guys.
You ever wonder this? This is the easiest poll ever. I tell Bongino, but I don't even want to waste your time on this one. You ever wonder how these freaking politicians get so rich? They have no life skills. Their only life skills are they have connections to other politicians, or their daddy or mommy was a politician. They don't really know anything. They add no value. They didn't invent like some big, smart, super ridiculous AI tech company or send like a rocket into space. And yet they're really rich. There's this Doge account that put this out. Nancy Pelosi, annual salary, $223,000. Net worth, $202 million. I'm always a little skeptical of these net worth figures because the ones about mine online are really off, and it's so easy to figure out if you just go to like the publicly traded companies. However, I think we could both agree she's worth a lot of money. Mitch McConnell says his annual salary $200, net worth $95 million. Chuck Schumer $75 million. Elizabeth Warren $67 million. Folks, divide these numbers by 10. Say they're not, just pretend for a second they're not even accurate. Say Pelosi's worth $20 million and McConnell's worth 9.5 and Elizabeth Warren's 6.7. Where the hell did they get this money, folks?
Pelosi just worked for 1,000 years.
That's actually not a bad point. I mean, I just watched Nosferatu. He's like, this is, we may have to, Michael says if you do the math, he's a math major. Maybe she worked 1,000 years. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, the United States isn't that old, but whatevs. Who knows? It reminds me of an interview with a vampire. Like, let's I want some more. Remember that? Who knows what she was up to? But I'm going to tell you how this works. You ready? Some of you may have heard this segment before in a prior podcast, but if you haven't, you're making a big mistake if you don't listen again, because I want you to tattoo this on your brain, okay? I was running for office a while ago. This guy, Chuck Ecker, was the Howard County executive when I'm running in Maryland. And we got in this conversation about how people in government get rich and why government just continues to grow, despite the fact that everybody, sane person, hates big government. And he said, Dan, you got to understand, buddy, there is no power in yes. There is only power in government bureaucrats telling people no. And I said, I mean, I got what he was saying, but I said, explain. I said, I want you to think about it. You're whatever, throw something simple out there. You're a building inspector in a place. And my dad was once, I'm not knocking him, but if you have a tendency to corruption, there's no power in you approving everybody's building permits. If you're corrupt, you want to say no a lot so that people have to slip you some money under the table to figure it out, right?
Ooh.
There is no power in yes, ladies and gentlemen. There's only power in no. That's why government likes to expand regulations and rules, because it's more rules you have to obey that when you go to them, you're going to have to ask them, am I following the rules by building this building? You get the point? There is no power in yes. There's only power in no. And that's how these people get rich. They lobby you to yes. Remember that line. There is a lot of money in lobbying you to yes. That's why dumb people get really rich. Here, I want to play this clip with Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, who's lied about everything to get ahead, a woman with no life skills other than making powwow chow. I want you to listen to this segment about banks, where she throws out a completely ridiculous, absurd, obscene charge that banks under the last 3 weeks of Donald Trump are now free to scam people. I'm going to play the response in a second. But this is the left in a post-truth world, just fabricating charges to scare banks out there because they want to be paid off to get to yes. Check this out.
By forcing the CFPB not to do its job, President Trump, Elon Musk, and the author of Project 2025, Russ Vought, are giving Wall Street banks an unlimited get-out-of-jail-free card so they can cheat working families, even while community banks continue to play by the rules. For any Americans who have money deposited at JP Morgan or Wells Fargo or any other of the giant banks, they should now know that there is no one on the job to make sure that those banks are not scamming.
The response from Senator Mike Rounds, where he asks a really simple question of Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell's running our Fed. I don't think he's doing a particularly good job, but they, of course, oversee the banking system in some respect. He's like, so this senator who's living in a post...
Just want to say, guys, thank you so much for your support, guys. If you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, we really do appreciate all your support.
Truth, liberal Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell type world is suggesting that banks are now free to scam people. That's a serious charge. I mean, she is a U.S. senator, correct? Is there any actual evidence to back that up? And by the way, Powell's not even a Trump guy. I want you to listen to the answer because she just made it up, dude, like everything else the liberals do. Check this out.
suggestion that the ranking member has made here is that the big banks can now scam individuals right now. Any change in the laws regarding how they're supposed to be treating the individual consumers out there or anything along that line?
Law changes? No, I'm not aware of any.
Any changes, any rules that they would have to follow?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are they still audited, and do they still have the regulators in watching all of their businesses just as they did before?
Well, they'd have all the regulators except for the CFPB.
Very
if,
good.
If in fact, in the hypothetical, the CFPB weren't carrying that out.
What a liar, man.
I want you to digest what I told you yesterday in the podcast and the radio show. You are qualitatively better than them. The quality of your material on social media and elsewhere, this vast MAGA army, Bongino army, the conservative crew, the Tea Party, you're better than them. They lie about everything all the time because that's all they have. And then when they don't lie, what they do is they engage in emotional meltdowns by the idiot. Put up that thing again about the net worth. Because, folks, there are a lot of really stupid people getting really rich off government payouts, the gravy train, the influence operation. And the reason they don't want you picking up the rock and saying, hey, man, let me look under this and see what's living under there is because they know when you see that the government bookkeeper is corrupted and stealing money, that you're never going to trust the bookkeeper again.
Guys, I'm telling you what, it's going to take a lot for me to trust where things are at. Because guess what? They said it. It's happening, guys. Musk questions Congresswoman Pelosi's wealth amid controversial pro-Armenian stance. Guys, this is happening. The Doge team is going to be investigating everybody who, when they got into office, they had a certain net worth, and if their worth exponentially increased while they were in office, they are going to then investigate them, look at their financials, audit them, and use the IRS and look at everything. Because there's no way, just like AOC gets into office, has a net worth of 0, and then 4 or 5 years later, she's worth $14-15 million. All this stuff is coming out. And what I love is that we've said it here on this podcast show, guys, that they were doing this. And I'm glad that they're finally, you got Doge, Elon Musk, who's going to be investigating this because those people have been taking advantage of our dollars, taxpayers, for their benefit. Thank you so much, Edward Craney, for the super chat. Let's go, member of the channel. Y'all show Edward some love in the chat. And what I love is what you're about to hear next, guys, because it's getting deeper every single day of the exposure of this corruption.
No, Jerry Connolly, that speech was not targeted for, Steve Bannon and the right-wing fringe here in the United States. J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, targeted that speech for that audience. They needed to hear it. Number one, that it was not Russia. That's their enemy. It's not number one enemy, or not China, the Chinese Communist Party. It was themselves on mass migration. And you know that JD's right, and what we've said here for years is correct. If they thought it was Russia, if they were so afraid of Russia, they would pay more for their own defense. They don't. It's all performative. Under 2% of GDP. They leave the United States to pay the rest. They really let the United States be the kind of organizing principle with our army. Our standing army in Germany, right, still there from World War II. And other units we deployed, like we have the 101st Airborne, I think a brigade of 101st Airborne deployed to Romania near the Ukrainian border. Of course, we're underrating the Ukrainian war, $250 billion. Zelensky says, well, only 179 headed in this direction, and I only received 77 billion, so you're at least 102. The Munich Security Conference, the Davos of the arms merchants. You got to compare this, too, to what President Trump said yesterday. He's going to have, well, first off, he's already lined up, I think, 3 meetings with Putin, which has these guys melted down. A joint meeting, or a meeting in Riyadh, the two of them. Also, he's been invited there, and he's invited Putin, I think, already to Washington. You could see MSNBC that at night when that was announced, they spit on the floor. But what he's saying, what the president's also saying, is that he wants to meet with Xi and Putin together in a collective, summit. I think a perfect place for that would be Mar-a-Lago. Just saying. And in there, he would sign a pact or convince the Russians and the Chinese to decrease their military spending by 50%. He would do the same for the United States of America. That would go a long way to solving our budget crisis. Swords into plowshares. Swords into plowshares, that theory. Can he pull it off? I can tell you the force structure that comes around the hemispheric defense is outlined in the Panama to the Arctic. Panama Canal to Greenland strategy, this new naval strategy, has to lead to a complete rethinking of our defense and complete rethinking of the $900 billion we put into the defense budget. What is so important, it kind of kicked off, you've had Pete Hegseth over there, you've had Marco Rubio over there, you've had Scott Bessent over there, between Brussels and Munich, and it's a pretty good show of strength in teeing up this negotiation over Ukraine. And we are the cut and run, just, hey, give it to them, say thanks. You figured out with the Russians. We're out of here. No money, no troops. No money, no troops. So JD's speech, the target audience wasn't the right wing here in the United States, Jerry Connolly, Mr. Progressive Democrat. It's not. We know this stuff. Our audience loves it. Today, a resounding round of applause and support for JD on giving the speech. People were just going, this is amazing. And to think about it, it's just not a government official. It's just not any government official. It's Vice President of the United States. Pete Hegseth started it off. Pete gave an incredible speech. Of course, all of them, he gave away so much. He's so naive. A rookie mistake. Said by Wicker of Mississippi. Wicker, Mississippi is the one to talk about using tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Remember that? Remember Roger Wicker talking about using tactical nukes, and lots of them. Not like a couple of three, like let's keep going. I mean, that brother is cray-cray. Tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine. So Pete Hegseth kicked it off the other day, saying, hey, we're not going to go back to, there's not going to be a lot of negotiation about the Donbass or Crimea. And he gave a ton of other truths, and they melted down. And then JD today the big one was, hey, we found the enemy. It is us. You doing the mass migrations. That's the problem, the elites of Europe. Speaking of incoming, Facebook, how did you rattle the cage of one of the richest, most powerful men in the world, ma'am?
Yeah, oops. I think these people should learn by now. Don't come after me. Don't come after the war room. Don't come after the war room posse. And certainly don't come after you. I had wanted to come on the show today just to simply break the story, which is that one of these huge Silicon Valley-based, left-wing tech funds that doles out billions of dollars annually, whose number one benefactor, by the way, is Mark Zuckerberg. Well, believe it or not, they've actually been funding some of the groups that are currently suing President Trump, whether it's Treasury, DOGE, OPM, education, the kind of Schedule F stuff, you name it. But apparently the New York Times beat me to it because they're already running cover and shilling for Mark Zuckerberg. They put out a whole story where, frankly, they demean me. They called me a right-wing influencer last time I checked. Wow. I'm a co-host, White House correspondent, and investigative reporter. But I guess that's part of the smear campaign. They didn't even ask for my comment. They simply said that the allegations that I put forth in my story that was well documented from primary sources and financial records was fake news. And this is the best part. Their defense, they're saying that because the Silicon Valley Community Foundation is a donor-advised fund, right? So a lot of people give money to it. It's then pooled and they distribute it to charities that they deem appropriate. Well,
guys, this is such a big story that they find out that Mark Zuckerberg gave $2 billion to a charity that was funding lawsuits against Trump. And Natalie Winters found it out, guys. That's what I'm talking about. If you don't mind, guys, clicking the thumbs up like button, let's go. Thank you so much, Michelle Lindsay, for the super chat. First timer. Let's go. Y'all show Michelle some love in the chat.
Mark Zuckerberg said, well, maybe it wasn't us. It could have been one of the 1,000 other people who've donated to it. To which I would say, Mark Zuckerberg, maybe instead of trying to trash me and this show in the New York Times, you should be dedicating that energy to condemning and disavowing the group that you're funding with what, 1/100th of a degree of separation? Last time I checked, if you want to depict yourself as, you know, the newfound MAGA convert, you should want absolutely no ties or connections with any entities that, like I said, are actively suing President Trump. And Steve, I would just like to double down on the veracity and truthfulness of my claims, but I would also like to add that this group didn't just fund Protect Democracy to the tune of over $4 million over the course of 3 years, which, like I said, is suing President Trump and is part of the Democracy Forward Coalition, which has dozens of lawsuits against President Trump. But this, like I said, California-based foundation, well, they actually bankroll Planned Parenthood, ACLU, the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Brennan Center, all of those entities which played a very crucial role in trying to keep President Trump off the ballot in 2024.
Guys, is that not crazy? Let me tell you this. There will be signs. We will see signs. Check this out, guys. This came out in Washington, D.C. Searches soar on Google for wipe and erase, according to Google Trends. Look at this, guys. Look at the dates at the bottom. January 23rd, 2025, spikes of erase. I'm telling you, why do you think every single politician, RFK, Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, Tulsi Gabbard said, preserve your records. Don't delete anything. Why? Because they know, guys. They know that they're doing it. Thank you so much. What's new for the super chat? Let's go. Said what is seen can not now be unseen or unknown. 100%. Y'all show what's new some love in the chat. And again, too, guys, this is what I love when Elon puts out these posts. He said, why 90% of Americans love Doge. Watching Trump / federal programs, knowing it doesn't affect you because you're not a member of the parasite class. We aren't, guys, this is like Christmas for every person, that every hardworking American, that you're busting your butt, you're trying to do what's right, you're trying to take care of your family, and these politicians have been taking advantage of everybody. And now they're finally getting exposed. Shelly Bergman, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's go. Said, Shelly said, Mark Z can kiss my hindquarters. I'll replace that. There you go. Y'all show Shelly some love in the chat, guys, because I'm telling you, this is the tip of the iceberg. Check this out.
Doge Choir is back with a fresh new track that's almost as painful as Greg's bumping music. Those liberal lunatics capping off another week of anti-Elon rallies, raging against the waste management wizards. Doge now has a website that's keeping score on all the government slop they're digging up. Case in point, the Department of Education just had to slash grants to 4 equity assistance centers, blowing $33 million of your taxpayer cash on things like this workshop on whiteness.
Today's virtual roundtable is entitled Identifying and Disrupting Your Whiteness, a workshop addressing power and privilege toward anti-racist spaces.
And we just got an exclusive clip, Sean Hannity sitting down with President Trump and Elon Musk for their first joint interview. Let's watch.
You're both aware, you have to be keenly aware, that the media and the punditry class, not that, you know, I think you've proven they have no power anymore because they threw everything they had at you and they didn't win. And that was, you know, the New York Times, Washington Post, 3 networks, every late night comedy show, 2 cable channels. They just threw everything, lawfare, weaponization. Sure. And now I see they want you two to start, they want a divorce. They want you two to start hating each other. And they try, President Elon Musk, for example. You do know that they're doing that to you.
Oh, I see it all the time. They tried it, then they stopped. That wasn't, they have many different things of hatred. Actually, Elon called me. He said, you know, they're trying to drive us.
Hey guys, can we just give a shout out for Trump's tan? I mean, I think homeboy is 100% owning it. We know it's a spray tan, but I think that he's always going to have this spray tan.
I said, absolutely. No, they said, we have breaking news. Donald Trump has ceded control of the presidency to Elon Musk. President Musk will be attending a cabinet meeting tonight at 8 o'clock. And I said, it's just so obvious. They're so bad at it. I used to think they were good at it. They're actually bad at it, because if they were good at it, I'd never be president. Because I think nobody in history has ever gotten more bad publicity than me. I could do the greatest things. I get 98% bad publicity. I could do, outside of you and a few of your very good friends, it's like the craziest thing. But you know what I have learned, Elon? The people are smart. They get it.
Yeah, they do, actually.
They get it. They really see what's happening.
Yes.
Enjoying that.
I have to tell you that there is no better way for the Democrats to continue to destroy themselves than to continue on this mission that they have with the F Trump and F Elon and the singing, when the American people are like, we get this, just the way the President Trump was saying, we get this. We want to know where all the expenditures are going. I just said to someone, did you know that $22 billion went to illegals from Joe Biden over 2 years, I think actually a year and a half, for them to buy a house and buy a car and start a business when senior citizens and veterans are, homeless or trying to figure out medication or food. So I just hope the Democrats continue to go down that road. Now, 14 attorney generals across the country are now suing, saying that Elon Musk doing this is a violation of the Appointments Clause, and he lacks Senate confirmation, and he's got too much private information at his hands. You know what? It's nothing more than politically motivated attempt to destroy and hide. Because as a prosecutor, I say to myself, like, who is against exposing fraud and corruption? Okay, the ones who are at risk of being charged with fraud and corruption. And, the ones who favor a bureaucracy. And let the Dems do it. They'll lose again.
We're seeing polling in Arizona from swing state people. Kennedy, they want them to keep going. They say keep cutting. They love it.
And it was actually a very interesting polling group, because it was people who had voted for Biden in 2020 who then switched their votes to Trump in 2024, because Bidenomics, as was the case for most people in the country, it didn't work out for them. So it didn't work out for them because their taxes are too high, eggs are too expensive, people still are having a hard time at making mortgage payments and paying the rent and affording college and everything else. So now they're realizing where that hard-earned tax money is actually going. And the more we hear about $160 million going to a Canadian electric school bus factory that has now declared bankruptcy and never made good on their promise to deliver school buses, 100 million of them, to 55 school districts in the country, it's like, that's where my money has gone. They actually want more of it, because the feeling is if you cut out entire departments and if you shed sunlight on all of this waste and abuse, then maybe taxes will finally come down. Then maybe federal expenditures will come down. And I'm shocked that Democrats haven't gotten on board with this and gone, you know what? We're not helping people if we're squirreling this money away to projects that do absolutely nothing. We're Democrats. We're the party of the working man. So let's ferret out the abuse and find better, less expensive ways to truly help people. But they're not doing that, and that's dumb.
Doge one thing at this table, Harold. Would it be Greg's collar?
I like Greg's collar.
I'd let him doge.
Doge.
Yes. A different turn.
Greg?
Jesse.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great.
You
Thank
look
you.
great.
And thank you for the chocolate.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I
thank
know
you.
Belgium's your favorite.
You asked Harold about, can they do a reasonable position? It's hard because that lane is taken. When you say reasonable position, you mean common sense. So that's the high ground, and there's nothing around a high ground. I'm not interested in saying that the Democrats suck. Leave that to outnumbered. I say right now you suck, but here's what you got to do to get out of it. I think a lot of Dems, people watch this show.
Guys, thank you so much for your support. If you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, it really does help out so much. Thank you, Andy, for the super chat. Said, let's not forget that Soros crime network is still in control of up to 70% of the local governments across the U.S. need to be arrested. Thank you so much, Andy. Y'all show Andy some love in the chat. Yeah, guys, we got a lot of cleaning up to do, but I'm glad, hey, we're We're almost 4 weeks in, and we're seeing a lot happen.
Oh, there are more Democrats watching the show than CNN and MSNBC combined. So they come here for some kind of free therapy, and I'm here to give it to you because I actually want them to join us. And the Democrats have a choice to join the good guys or become a Bond villain. Because if you're going to defend waste, fraud, and abuse, you are basically embracing the life of a Bond villain. Actually, it's worse than that. It's like it is. Do you ever watch a zombie movie and you go like, you know, it would be just so much easier to get bitten and become a zombie because then you're no longer terrified.
Never considered that.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I go like, just get bitten. That's what I think that a lot of Dems are doing is that they're embracing a role that is just easier, but it forbids them from ever becoming the good guy. They're becoming a zombie. And I think this is a bigger moment than maybe most people realize. This is, I think, the biggest political moment since the fall of communism. In that case, that end was definitive. The wall comes down, USSR dissolves. Suddenly, communism just evaporates, except in colleges. For the Democrats, the wall has come down. And many of their leaders sense that the Democrat Party of before is dead. It's not in need of a rebrand. It's in need of a full body and mind transplant. And it's really hard to do that when you still have that stuff, the singing, the equity, the DEI. I don't think you can underestimate how wokeness, which is fueled by identity politics, essentially cultural Marxism, infected the party and ate it out, devoured it from the inside. In a way, it's very similar to what happened to USSR, except it happened to a party, not a country. So I think that the Dems, my advice is to stop thinking about the role as an adversary to Trump. You have to ask yourself, what are we? You may find out that you're not anything anymore. And then they have to decide, what does that mean? Do I leave this party? Do we start something new? What would that new thing be? Because it's really hard to find an oppositional point to Trump because he's neither conservative, right? He's neither liberal. He's basically a populist. And it's hard to get footing when the guy's picking 80-20 popular issues. It's like when you said, a reasonable position, every one of them is taken.
And you're welcoming Democrats.
Guys, let me tell you this. That is exactly why I told you, and more people are going to say it. The Democrats are going to create, there's going to be something born that's not a Democrat, that's not a far left progressive, that is more center left. So that way, yes, they have liberal ideas and things like that, but they're not progressive or they're not so-called Democrat, because I feel like that word is being tainted now. Guys, I wanted to show you this. This is doge.gov. So the Doge department created their own website and they post all from X of all the things that they're doing here, guys. This is awesome. But what I love too is this right here. So they have come through this and they're measuring the unconstitutionality indexed. Listen to this. This is the number of agency rules created by unelected bureaucrats for each law passed by Congress in 2024. So think about this. Congress passes a law, and then these unelected bureaucrats then create rules based upon that law, and that's what's regulating all of our lives. Look at this, guys. This is 18.5. So there was 213 in 2016, 213 laws created. Out of that, 3.85 thousand rules were added based upon that law. And look at that. This is crazy. 247 laws passed by Congress in 2022, 3.17 thousand rules made to again keep controlling Americans. And look, Code of Federal Regulations. There's 98.68 million words in the Code of Federal Regulations. Let's look at the and every single agency, guys, look at this. They're doing this for they are pinpointing. And look, you can keep loading it and loading it over every single agency. They're going to go through every single agency. They're going to remove all the regulations. They're going to give power back to we the people and make sure that people are being people are being led by the people they voted into office, not by unelected bureaucrats. And it starts here. Check this out.
Thank you. The accusation or criticism has been made that this is an unserious hearing full of conspiracy theorists. Well, you know, the Democrats were asked to participate like they always are, the same way we were when we were in the minority. They could have brought a witness. They chose not to even bring a witness. I can't conjecture as to why, but maybe it's because it's so embarrassing, the stuff that USAID is spending their money on. Who could possibly be against ending $2 million for sex change surgeries in Guatemala? I mean, who wants to defend that? I haven't heard anybody yet defend the waste and malfeasance that's going over there. $3 million for girl-centric climate change. Maybe there's not a witness here. Maybe it's not serious. But I don't hear anybody explaining why we should continue to do that. Now, there is a legal question. There is a legal question. If there's $40 billion in USAID and they don't spend it at all and it just sits there, can the president impound it? This is a real question, and it may come to that. But I don't think any court is going to find that the executive branch cannot pause and audit spending. I mean, to crassly say and just to jump to this, it's illegal, it's unlawful, it's a tragedy, it's constitutional chaos. Well, auditing spending is what government should do. It's the traditional oversight that hasn't been done in a generation. That's why we're finding this stuff. It's been creeping up for a generation. $4.8 million for social media influencers in Ukraine. I mean, if people want to defend that, step forward and defend it. We are finding waste and malfeasance. You also have to realize that when you have a social agenda, and your social agenda is, you know, LGBT, well, when you take that to a conservative country that has religious problems with that, and you want to foist it on them and fly flags, what ends up happening is that doesn't increase diplomacy, that actually goes against diplomacy. I don't care what people's views are on any of these subjects. You can have any view on LGBT, but it shouldn't be part of foreign policy to force this on everybody around the world. It just isn't part of government and should never be part of government. But we're only finding this out because we have a president with the courage, including the advice of Elon Musk, including the advice of a lot of us, who have been saying for years, we need to look at USAID and make sure that they aren't committing fraud. Look, this morning, the CFO of FEMA was fired because she's spending $54 million on luxury hotels for illegal aliens.
What?
My goodness, there's a lot of Americans struggling to find work. Laken Riley's killer, we flew him and put him up in a luxury hotel in New York.
Wow.
He was there for a few months. We spent all of our money on his meals, and then we flew him to Atlanta. And then he drifted over to Athens, and then he killed Laken Riley. Most Americans think that that's crazy and we shouldn't be doing it, but we are only finding it out because for once we have a president with the courage to say no, to go over there and put a padlock on the door and take the name down. But ultimately, there will be a legal question. Can he impound it, or will it have to come back to Congress? I actually, frankly, think the better way is spend about $30 billion and send $10 billion back, and we do a rescission. There is a method for doing that, and I hope that is what is done. But even on the impoundment question, there are questions exactly, and I don't think it's ever made it all the way to the Supreme Court. There is court precedent on it, but we haven't gotten to that. A pause in funding is an impoundment. A pause in funding to do an audit is just good government, frankly. The question I have for the panel is this, though.
Mr. Chairman, may I just inquire?
Sure.
Because the chairman mentioned that we don't have a minority witness. I would suggest, and speaking out of turn here, because the ranking member isn't here and I don't purport to speak for him.
We're docking your time for next week. I'm just kidding.
But I would respectfully suggest that we have Paul Martin, who was fired as Inspector General, come before us.
We didn't deny any witnesses. Your side did not put forward a witness. We did not deny any witnesses. You didn't put forward a witness. So, but I just think it's disingenuous to, to sit there and it is a personal attack on me to call this unserious and a conspiracy, a bunch of conspiracy. It's an attack on our witnesses as well. That is a pejorative, and that's name calling. All right, you're welcome to object to things they say and have facts to counter them, but to call this an unserious hearing of conspiracy
I never used that term, Mr. Chairman.
Well, you said it wasn't serious. You said the hearing wasn't serious. And the thing is, y'all chose not to participate in it, so that's on you.
Maybe we can have a second hearing because this is such an important
We can have a dozen on this. There's so much to talk about. But anyway, I think we ought to be, I'm not criticizing your ranking member for being unserious or a conspiracy theory. He has his opinions. We make our arguments both sides. But if we call names and say, oh, well, your ideas are conspiracy theory, that's a pejorative, and that doesn't get us anywhere, frankly. And because it's also dangerous in the sense that many people who are then say, oh, it's a conspiracy theory, well, government should suppress that. This is what went on. We had 23 scientists come forward in Lancet and say that the possibility that the virus came from a lab in Wuhan was a conspiracy theory.
Yep.
And then government promoted back to Twitter and others and met with them on a weekly basis trying to suppress. Facebook for a year and a half said that ideas like mine that it could have come from the lab were to be suppressed. Michael Schellenberger, why don't you, if you wouldn't mind responding to how the government was involved with trying to suppress speech that you found out through Twitter files?
Well, sure. And also, I would think whenever you hear somebody accuse somebody of a conspiracy theory, I think you should consider that they are themselves spreading disinformation. In other words, we know that the proximal origins paper that you're describing there, we know from their internal discussions that those scientists were pursuing the lab leak theory. We saw it in their Slack messages. And then they got a phone call. They talked from the higher ups, and then they ended up changing their whole hypothesis over a weekend. So we've seen repeatedly that term used to dismiss very serious evidence of misconduct and of actual conspiracies. We've seen the rise of an entire censorship industrial complex. There's no theorizing here. These are just the facts of the censorship industrial complex that was created by the Department of Homeland Security starting in 2021. Really started before that in 2020, all the way culminating to the Disinformation Governance Board, which was so Orwellian that even Democrats had to back away from it.
Guys, y'all see that?
Senator.
100%. The government literally worked to censor all the information that they knew was the truth when it came to COVID. And I remember, guys, you couldn't say nothing. If you even mentioned the word COVID back in 2021, they would take down your video. They would demonetize it. They would put a banner on it. I mean, it was bad. You couldn't say anything about it. But now we know Biden administration was working with the FBI to censor people because they didn't want any agenda being put out that wasn't their own. Thank you so much, Queen of Yeshua, for the for being a member for 5 months. Let's go. Y'all show her some love in the chat. Guys, thank you so much for your support, guys. If you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, let's get to 2,000 likes on stream. We can do it, guys. Thank you so much for your support. So Elon Musk is getting livid right now, guys, because this is his post. Elon Musk, 217 million followers right there. The Democrats are importing voters. It is very important to understand that they really are doing this at scale. It's fact, not rhetoric. So, New York Times posts that New York moves to allow 800,000 non-citizens to vote in local elections. It's the local. Well, guess what? Local elections are down ballot. Local elections decide a lot. There's a lot of elections that Trump won by 100,000 votes. 100,000 here, 200,000 there in certain states. These states would then, imagine they start at the local level and then they move up to the federal level. If they had 800,000 non-citizens voting, they would overwhelmingly vote Democrat. They literally use taxpayer dollars to fly in these illegals, have them come in, and then turn them into voters so that the Democrats could have their way. This is 100% corruption exposed on the New York Times. And anybody who doesn't see this, you are naive. This is what Trump is trying to stop. This is why Elon Musk is so livid about this, because it's right in front of our faces. And they say, well, there's no voter fraud. Well, you literally changed the law so that they could vote, making it okay. But I'm glad, guys, because we got good news. Check this out.
Thousands of bureaucrats woke up today to a big "you're fired." 1,000 workers at the VA fired. 2,000 workers at the Department of Energy fired. 3,000 workers at the U.S. Forest Service fired. And 1/10 of the CDC was fired too. It's all happening over Zoom. They log on, get fired, and are made to evacuate the building in 30 minutes. Elon just called himself the weed killer.
We do need to delete entire agencies as opposed to leave part of them behind. It's kind of like if leaving a weed, if you don't remove the roots of the weed, then it's easy for the weed to grow back.
Musk says, how many agencies do you really need to run a country? 99? Not 450, that's for sure. Musk is a corporate turnaround artist, and the government's his new pet project. The world's richest man's been sleeping on a couch and sometimes the floor of the Eisenhower building. Just yesterday, Elon and Big Balls gutted $115 million of fat federal contracts, and they've gotten the libertarians turned on.
The United States should not be the sugar daddy for the entire world. $15 million was awarded to Taliban-controlled Afghanistan to distribute oral contraceptives and condoms. USAID spent $32,000 in Peru to create a comic featuring a trans hero to address social and mental health issues. What does that have to do with diplomacy? I guess the U.S. is now the travel agent for the entire world since they spent $50 million on Tunisia's tourism. USAID gave $87.9 million to help Afghans farm, and incidentally, farm poppy, the plant from which opium is extracted. As of 2021, Afghanistan supplied 90% of the world's heroin. I thought the saying in the U.S. was just say no to drugs. How about we just say no to wasteful foreign aid?
90%? We helped the Taliban grow heroin and then left them $7 billion of Black Hawk helicopters, Humvees, and RPGs. Some of the newer money we're sending doesn't make any sense.
If you think that the program under Operation Enduring Sentinel entitled Women's Scholarship Endowment, which receives $60 million annually, or the Young Women Lead, which gets about $5 million annually, is going to women who, by the way, if you read the Inspector General's report, is telling you that the Taliban does not allow women to speak in public. Yet somehow you're believing, and American people are supposed to believe, that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan. It is not. You are funding terrorism, and it's coming through USAID.
Why is Biden sending millions of dollars to women in Afghanistan to go to college when the Taliban doesn't let women go to college? It's like sending condoms to the Vatican.
Wow.
What's the point?
Wow.
We're sending all of that money, and we have nothing to show for it.
USAID spent $840 million in the last 20 years on Pakistan's education-related program. It includes $136 million to build 120 schools, of which there is zero evidence that any of them were built. Why would there be any evidence? The Inspector General can't get in to see them. But you know what? We doubled down and spent $20 million from USAID to create educational television programs for children unable to attend the physical school. Yeah, they can't attend it because it doesn't exist. You paid for it. Somebody else got the money.
Wow.
You are paying for terrorism.
We sent $136 million to Pakistan to build schools, and they never built any. And we kept sending them money. God. This money is either being stolen, it's a bribe, or a subcontractor is getting a huge kickback. And we're still pouring money into Pakistan after they hid bin Laden for a decade. Why? Pakistan shouldn't get another penny. The government spent almost $3 trillion on improper payments over the course of the last decade. $3 trillion. And it skyrocketed under Biden. Look at that.
Wow.
DOGE said housing and urban development misplaced $2 billion. Just lost track of it. Thank goodness Big Balls found it. It was squirreled away in some random account that HUD forgot about. How do you tell your boss that? Mr. Secretary, you know that $2 billion? Can't seem to find it. Now everyone wants in on DOGE. Billionaire Airbnb co-founder Joe Gebbia is volunteering at DOGE to help cut the fat faster.
Wow.
And he's not a right-wing budget hawk. He's a Hillary and Biden donor. Trump and DOGE are inspiring every American leader to set their standards sky high. In a leaked phone call, J.P. Morgan's CEO, Jamie Dimon, can be heard laying down the gauntlet to all of his bankers.
A lot of you were on the
Zoom, and you were doing the following, okay? You know, looking at your mail, sending texts to each other about what an the other person is, okay? Not paying attention, not reading your stuff, you know, and if you don't think that slows down efficiency, creativity, creates rudeness, and stuff, it does, okay? You don't do that in my meetings. You go to meet with me, you got my attention, you got my focus, I don't bring my phone, I'm not sending texts to people, okay? Don't give me the work from home Friday works. I call a lot of people on Friday, they're not a person you get a hold of. If I was running a department of 100 people, I guarantee you, if I wanted to, I could run it with 90 and be more efficient.
Wow.
I guarantee you. I could do it in my sleep. You know, I've been working 7 days a week since COVID, and I come in and where's everybody else? But they're here and there, and the Zooms don't show up, and people say they didn't get stuff. So that's not how you run a great company. We didn't build this great company by doing that, by doing the same semi-disease that everybody else does.
Work from home Fridays isn't going to fly in the golden age. American bosses are watching Trump go hard and are like, hybrid's over, time to grind. And so far, the country loves the new spirit. An Axios focus group of Arizona swing voters say they're 100% behind what Trump and Elon are doing. One of them says, keep it coming. This country was forged by pioneers. This isn't a lazy nation like some of you nations out there. You know who I'm talking about, Canada. When the American president is on the front lines and he charges the enemy, the country charges too.
Yes.
So while most Americans are charging up this same hill, a lot of Democrats are holding us back.
It is unacceptable, unconstitutional, ultra-vires. They've exceeded their authority. And so it's important that attorneys general representing our respective states stand up and enforce the rule of law. Because Elon Musk, individuals at the Treasury, and the President of these United States is not above the law.
You're going to hear.
Guys, I'm telling you what, it's all the same stuff. They've said it before. No one's above the law. No one's above the law. Yeah, did you just remember Biden literally preemptively pardoned people who literally weren't even charged with the dang crime, but he preemptively pardoned them because no one's above the law. Got to make sure his people are taken care of. Guys, don't forget to smash that like button. Click the like button. It really does help, guys. Let's get to 2,000 likes, guys. We can do it. Thank you so much for your support.
The dog whistle that Trump and Musk like to say. We're reading out fraud, waste, and abuse. We're looking at efficiency. That's a dog whistle.
Yeah.
Tish James is the woman who tried to bankrupt the man who's now trying to save the country from bankruptcy. She can sit this one out. And since when is weeding out waste a dog whistle? It's not. Bill Clinton and Barack Obama were into weeding out waste too. How would this guy like it if someone stole his checkbook and wrote a check out for Jose to get a sex change in Guatemala? It's not racist to rip up that check. It's the right thing to do. Democrats' only strategy is to sing, swear, and sue and try to turn Trump against Elon.
Elon called me. He said, you know, they're trying to drive us apart. I said, absolutely. No, they said, we have breaking news. Donald Trump has ceded control of the presidency to Elon Musk. President Musk will be attending a cabinet meeting tonight at 8 o'clock. And I say, it's just so obvious. They're so bad at it. I used to think they were good at it. They're actually bad at it, because if they were good at it, I'd never be president. Because I think nobody in history has ever gotten more bad publicity than me. I could do the greatest things. I get 98% bad publicity. I could do, outside of you and a few of your very good friends, it's like the craziest thing. But you know what I have learned, Elon? The people are smart. They get it.
Yeah, they do, actually.
They get it. They really see what's happening.
Yes.
You can see more of that Trump-Elon interview on Hannity on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. And when 86-year-old Mad Maxine Waters, no relation, is the tip of the spear, it's time for some new recruits.
Yeah, Dan, I was wrong because it looked more like a seniors home and a canceled Jell-O night. It just wasn't optically a good moment for us.
Democrats' only hope is unelected judges to rule on lawsuits brought by unelected lawyers on behalf of unelected bureaucrats to go after an elected president. What Trump's doing is popular. And there was a time when Democrats would have gone gaga over DOGE.
Yep.
I joined the Democratic Party in 1989 because I wanted to fight NAFTA. I wanted to drain the swamps. I wanted to make sure that my tax dollars weren't going to foreign wars or wasted. I give you that one, Brian. And that sounds like Donald Trump today. That's why we lose to him, is we've let him steal our verbiage. We have quit talking about working America's, keeping America safe, doing the things that we did when I joined this party. And that's the reason he is scary. But he's not scary to enough people to lose elections because he sounds like the Democrats, and why I joined this party.
At the most fundamental level, Trump and Elon are giving America a math equation. And Democrats are arguing with math, which you can't do. Math never loses an argument.
Ain't that the truth?
We're this much in debt, we're still spending this much money, and we just found this much waste. The main reason Democrats are struggling is because there's no lying in math.
Guys, let me tell you this. Trump is really, they are going to cut spending one way or another, guys, through Congress or through federal funding. Remember, we spend about $1.1 trillion on federal funding to all the states combined. $1.1 trillion every single year. Department of DOGE, they put out this post on X. This letter was sent to the Departments of Education in all 50 states, notifying them that they have 14 days to remove all DEI programming in all public schools, institutions which institutions which fail to comply may face a loss of federal funding. Guys, I'm telling you, it is massive what is about to happen. But guys, what I'm about to show you next, because remember, everybody's got their eyes on Trump, they got their eyes on Elon Musk, but our boy JD Vance is literally setting the world on fire with his speech. This speech that he gave basically put everybody on notice that the United States is coming to kick everybody's butt if you get in our way. Check this out.
All right. I have been waiting for this for 4 years, for someone to stand in front of a room full of European leaders, look them in the eye, and tell them what they're doing is wrong, and that America won't be walked on anymore. We're not your piggy bank. We're not your checkbook. We're not doing your bidding for you. We will operate in our interests and will not ignore others. I have been waiting throughout the last 4 years of the most disastrous administration in foreign policy for the speech that J.D. Vance gave today in Munich that said, globalism is dead.
In Washington, there is a new sheriff in town. And under Donald Trump's leadership, we may disagree with your views, but we will fight to defend your right to offer it in the public square, agree or disagree.
He gave a 20-minute speech where he pointed out all the things that Europe has tried to avoid hearing from their electorate for the last 10 years. He said things that Europe has been basically jailing people for speaking out about. Illegal and mass migration, asylum seekers and refugees, ruining their safety, their country, and their culture. J.D. Vance looked them right in the eye and handed them that harsh reality, the reality that through fear of jail, the same people in the room have forced their citizens not to say the obvious.
We know the situation, it didn't materialize in a vacuum. It's the result of a series of conscious decisions made by politicians all over the continent and others across the world over the span of a decade. We saw the horrors wrought by these decisions yesterday in this very city. It's a terrible story, but it's one we've heard way too many times in Europe and unfortunately too many times in the United States as well. An asylum seeker, often a young man in his mid-20s, already known to police, rams a car into a crowd and shatters a community. How many times must we suffer these appalling setbacks before we change course and take our shared civilization in a new direction?
Thank you. The best part, though, was their faces. Almost no applause, by the way. The scorn and the pompous look. How dare this man give us the brutal, honest truth? That was the highlight of my year. He went on to ask, how did it happen? How did the people who, alongside us, by the way, who won the Cold War, go on to become the very thing, the very big, tyrannical government, anti-freedom machine that Europe fought to defeat?
They lost because they neither valued nor respected all of the extraordinary blessings of liberty. The freedom to surprise, to make mistakes, to invent, to build, As it turns out, you can't mandate innovation or creativity, just as you can't force people what to think, what to feel, or what to believe. And we believe those things are certainly connected. And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners.
And there were no applause from that. From that room. Look, I was howling. I think many people in Europe who were watching it were probably happy as all get out too, because J.D. Vance said what they couldn't. The people of Europe, for the most part, are so tired of this. Like, I watched as the camera panned out, and you saw their faces too. The smirks of these people with their disdain. It was even disbelief. But some of them started to realize that they were, in fact, doing what they were being called out for. And
guys,
J.D. Vance...
Isn't this amazing, guys? We're not only rocking the United States right now, we're rocking the entire world right now with so much MAGA. Make America Great Again. And guess what? The person running India said, we want to make India great again. I think it was MAGA. Yeah, M-I-G-A. Make India great again. You have, what was it? Well, who is Milei over? Milei's over. I can't remember what country he's over. But he said, let's make this country great again. Why? Get away from the wokeness. Put common sense back into place. That's what people care about. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for your support. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Let me take care of you every day with the top news. And want to say thank you to everybody that is a member of the channel. And also, thank you to everybody that's hit the like button. If you haven't, please click that like button, guys. It really does help out. You're my sponsors, guys. I don't have any sponsors. I'm here to serve you guys and give you all the best news. And I really want to always try to stay away. Guys, sponsors, you know, when you get bigger and stuff, they come and they try to offer you a lot of money. But I want to make sure that I'm giving you the best show every single day. And when you click that like button, that is supporting our channel. When you share it, it supports the channel, and it means the world to us that you do that. And I want to say thank you to everybody that gives a super chat donation, guys. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much, Edward Craney, Michelle Lindsay, What's New, Shelly Bergman, Andy. Thank y'all so much for your support. Y'all show them some love in the chat, guys. We are living through history right now. We are living through some of the greatest times that I think are happening, and then there's so much greatness that we're about to step into. And I love it because we finally have America First agenda. We finally have common sense back in the White House, and we finally got a president who's actually speaking to the press and takes questions, who is actually leading with the team, not just hiding behind a teleprompter. Guys, I love y'all so much. Appreciate y'all, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.